Rahim. This is myself, Ms. Rubina Zishan, and today we are going to discuss Precis writing with the relation to the communication skills, and this comes under the course code ENGL 1119. Precis writing. What is Precis? The word Precis is derived from French that means summary or précis. Writing means the art of summarizing. So précis writing is one of the most useful skills you can acquire for your work both as a student and as a professional. Précis writing involves summarizing a document to extract the maximum amount of information, then conveying this information to a reader in minimum words. So you can say a précis is a summary. Précis writing is an exercise in compression. A précis is the gist of a passage expressed in as few words as possible. A précis should give all essential points so that anyone reading it will be able to understand the idea expressed in the original passage. So you can work or you can acquire this skill not only as a student but also as a professionalist. Note that précis writing is different from paraphrasing. In a paraphrase, you should give all the details. You should not leave out any details. A paraphrase will be at least as long and sometimes longer than the original. A précis, on the other hand, must always be shorter than the original. So it should express only the main theme, that too as briefly as possible. So in précis writing, you are supposed to summarize a document in order to minimize the information, in order to minimize the words, but with the comprehension. And you have to summarize all the information that will fulfill the requirement to convey the information to a reader in a minimum words. There are so many definitions of the précis writing. A précis is a clear, compact, logical summary of a passage. It preserves only the essential or important ideas of the original. Second one, a précis may be defined as a restatement in shortened form of the main ideas and points in a piece of writing. Number third, a précis is the gist or main theme of a passage expressed in as few words as possible. So précis looks like a précis, and of course you always want your précis to be precise. So précis looks like something that is precised, but the words are pronounced differently. If we will talk about précis, this word comes from French word précis. So say it like this. Précis is basically the combination of two different syllables. In one pronunciation, you can stress the first syllable like précis, précis, or you can accent the other syllable. Like you can soften the tone of the word syllable pra, and you can make the second syllable as longest as you can, like pra si. You have to stress on the second syllable, like pra si. So this is the only pronounced if the word is plural, like prasis. The spelling stays the same. Like if you are going to pronounce the word prasi or prasis, it means the singular or the plural form of the written word prasi would remain same. So prasi is a clear and compact logical summary of a passage. Logical means that you have to discuss the information which is most important. In a passage, there can be many examples related to the topic, but it doesn't mean that you have to summarize all the examples in your précis. So it preserves only the essential or important ideas of the original. Like important ideas which are or which have been discussed in the first paragraph, you have to note down that or those. And the important ideas which have been discussed in the second paragraph, you have to note down those. And in the third or the last but not the least paragraph, you have to summarize all the important points which have been discussed in that. So a précis may be defined as a restatement. It's something like a paraphrasing, but it's as difference. So précis may be defined as a restatement or paraphrasing, but in a shortened form of the main ideas and points in a piece of writing. While on the other hand, if we will talk about paraphrasing, paraphrasing can be longest rather than the original paragraph. A précis is the gist or main theme of a passage expressed in as few words as possible. So you can grab this skill not only as a student but also as a professionalist too. Qualities of a good précis. In first three slides, we have discussed about the introduction or the definitions of the précis. Now we will move towards the qualities of a good précis. A good précis shows the writing skills of a person. Person as a student, person as a teacher as well. It must have the following qualities. Number one, clarity. Clarity means getting your message across so that the receiver can understand what the writer is trying to convey. I'm repeating the sentence, like clarity means that you have to get your message across in a very clear and easy way so that the person or the reader or the receiver can understand whatever you are going to discuss or whatever you have discussed to them or conveyed to them. It is the basic and essential need of a précis. This is basically like you have to make the things as much clear as you think that your point must be clear to the next person. So this is the essential need of a précis. The ideas should be clear and understandable. There should not be any ambiguity in your writing. The writer can achieve clarity by using simple language and simple structure. He has discussed a new point that there should not be any ambiguity in your writing. When you are not clear about your thoughts, when you are not clear about your writing, when you have different ambiguities in your mind in terms of the use of language, in terms of the use of the sentence structure. So it means that you will not be capable to convey your meaning as clearly as you want to convey. You have to use simple language, as much simple language as all the readers or the listeners might be able to understand your expressions, your feelings, your gestures, your language, and your points. And simple structure. Simple structure means that you have to use the simple structure of the sentences. In Precis, you are not supposed to show your skills or your knowledge regarding vocabulary or regarding something else by putting different figurative language, by using some different figurative language or languages. Like in Precis, you are not supposed to assign, to use adjectives, adverbs, as much as these are not needed in your work. So these use of things might be or may be created ambiguities or obscurities in your work. So due to this, the purpose to write, the purpose to discuss the Precis with your readers or with your listeners will not be fulfilled. If your Precis is not understandable to the readers, it will lose its importance and meaning. Yes, if your Precis is not understandable to the readers, definitely it will lose its importance and meaning. Simply, clarity means if the writer will ask you a question about A, you have to answer the question about A. If the question will be about A, but your answer will be about B, it means that the importance and meaning is not as much significance as you want to make them significant. Second quality is correctness. Mistakes in your writings always irritate the reader. Of course, mistakes are never acceptable. At the time of composing a Precis, the writer must ensure that the facts and the figures are correct to sustain the credibility of the whole text. It means that mistakes in your writings are not allowed. If you will continuously make mistakes in your writing, it will irritate the readers. These will irritate the readers. They will not show their interest to read the Precis. So in order to make it more comprehensive, more precise, more understandable, you have to avoid mistakes in your writings. Of course, mistakes are not acceptable or are never acceptable. Yes, that's true. One time you make mistakes, it means that it's okay. Due to some reasons, maybe you have made mistakes. But if you are repeating the same mistake continuously in the same work, the readers will be irritated, will be get bored. So at the time of composing a Precis, the writer must ensure that the facts and the figures are correct to sustain the credibility of the whole text. Also, the mistakes in structure and spelling may spoil the message. Mistakes in structure, what does it mean? It means that you have to follow the sequence made by grammarians. Like subject will come first, verb will come in second, and object will come in third. The structure would be different, can be different, if there will be use of some different adjectives and prepositions and interjections and adverbs and etc. But the main structure will be remain same. We may consider the mistakes under the following headlines. Like, we have to avoid misspelled words. We are not supposed to use misspellings or the spelling mistakes. We have to avoid misspelled words. Mistakes in figures and dates. You have to keep in mind the correct use of the dates and figures. Mistakes in punctuation, mistakes of grammar and structure. You have to avoid the mistakes of grammar and structure. About structure, I have explained earlier, but what is the grammatical mistake? Grammatical mistake is this, that if the writer will ask you question in present indefinite tense, you are supposed to answer in the same tense. If the paragraph is in past perfect tense, you are going to summarize the paragraph by using the past tense. You are not here allowed to use tenses according to own wish, according to your own choice. Third is objectivity. Objectivity means the ability to present or view facts uncolored by feelings, opinions, and personal bias. While making a précis, the writer should adopt an objective approach. He should not give and add his personal opinion and ideas in a précis. A précis should be purely a summary of the original text without any addition. So there is a difference between objectivity and subjectivity. Subjectivity means that you are allowed to add your feelings, your opinions, and personal thinkings. But in objectivity, this is the opposite side of subjectivity. Here, objectivity means the ability to present or view the facts or the information in which you are not allowed to add the colors of your feelings and opinions and personal point of views. So this is the guideline for all the students and the teachers as well. Whenever they are assigned to make a précis, it means they have to use the objective approach. They are not allowed to use any type of personal feelings. So a précis should be purely a summary of the original text without any addition related to the extra information searched from the Google, from the internet, from somewhere else, or from some other sources. Coherence. Coherence means the logical and clear interconnection of ideas in a written piece of work. A précis should be coherent. The main ideas which are presented in a précis must have a logical connection, and they all should be interrelated. In short, we may say that the ideas should be well knitted so that the writer may not be confused and lose his interest. So it means whenever you are going to write a précis in order to summarize some paragraphs, definitely the paragraphs or the written piece of work which is assigned to you will be consisted on different paragraphs. Like, there will be or there can be introductory paragraph, middle or the climax, and the conclusion. So you have to make the sequence, logical sequence, or the coherence between all these paragraphs. You are not allowed to add information from the beginning to the end. in the précis. Like in the paragraph, if a specific information is discussed in the beginning, it means that you have to summarize that information in the beginning of the précis. So all the paragraphs must have logical connection and they should be interrelated to each other. If the writer will not be confused by himself, it means that the information will be good, will be interrelated, as much comprehensible as it must be. Consciousness. Consciousness is a desirable quality of a good précis. Consciousness means to say all that needs to be said and no more. The writer should write what is necessary and avoid writing unnecessary details. A concise piece of work conveys the message in the fewest possible words. But one point must be kept in mind, that the writer should not omit some basic and essential facts to achieve consciousness. To achieve conciseness, notice the following suggestions. I'm repeating the paragraph. Conciseness is a desirable quality of a good précis. Like conciseness means to say all that needs to be said and no more. Like you are not supposed to omit unnecessary details. The writer should write what is necessary and avoid writing unnecessary details. You have to add all the information that is necessary. You are not allowed to omit unnecessary details according to your own choice, according to your own comprehension. It means if the omission is the requirement of the paragraphs, you can omit the unnecessary details. So eliminate wordy experience. Here you are not supposed to show your wordy experience. Like you are not supposed to add your adjectives, your adverbs as much as you think that you know about the paragraph. You are not used to use as much synonyms as you think that you have into your mind. So eliminate wordy experience. Include only relevant material. Relevant material, inclusion basically about the relevant material is called the conciseness. So a good précis has this quality to be concise according to the relevant material. Avoid unnecessary repetitions. If a point is being repeated in 3 of the paragraphs of the précis or in one paragraph of the paragraph for many times, it doesn't mean that you have to add those information repeatedly as you think that this is a requirement of the précis. No, this is not the requirement. You have to omit unnecessary details. One time reference of that specific repetition or the information is enough. Completeness. Another striking feature of a good précis is completeness. Completeness means that the writer should include all the important facts in a précis. To make it short, he should not omit the importance or important ideas. So completeness means that you have to discuss all the important information or the facts in the précis, but with the use of the coherence, with the use of the logical sequence, with the interrelation of the different ideas. Interrelation means that you have to make connection between or among paragraph number 1, 2, and 3, or all the important information discussed in one paragraph. So this is all about completeness. Method of procedure. Method or procedure. So Precis writing means intensive brain work. It's not as much easy as one think that this is easy. There is no easy shortcut to summarizing a passage. You must be prepared for close attention and hard thinking. So Precis writing is all about your intensive brain work. There can be many steps like reading. You have to read the passage first very carefully. You have to examine the passage. You have to give a short title to all the paragraphs by a whole. You are not supposed to give title to all the paragraphs independently. No. You have to give a short title to hold the paragraph or to hold the information that has been discussed there. Select important points. You have to note down all the important points which have been discussed. But along with it, you have to keep in mind the length and you have to write the first draft. In length, there is an important point which is important to know. That is this, that if a paragraph is consisted on 100 words, you are supposed to summarize the Precis in 1/3. Like you can use 33 to 35 words, 33 to 36 words for Precis. And you have to write the first draft of the paragraph. There can be many mistakes. The purpose to write the first draft is only to know about the mistakes, is only to know that where the relevant information is being repeated and you have to summarize that information even in the first draft. Remodeling. Revise your draft. After the written or after writing the first draft, you have to remodel all the information. Next, you have to revise the draft that either after the remodeling there are mistakes or not, the information is relevant or not, the use of sentence structure and grammar is perfect or not. So the purpose to revise the draft is to keep in mind all the mistakes or all the requirements or all the qualities of a Precis in mind. Write fair copy. When you think that your work is perfect, when you think that you have written the Precis according to the requirements of the Precis, you can write a fair copy or the neat copy of the paragraph or the first draft. Reading. First, read the passage carefully, but not too slowly, to get a general idea of its meaning. If one reading is not sufficient to give you this, clearly read it over again and yet again. Examine the passage. The more you read it, the more familiar will it become to you, and the clearer will be. You have to be clearer, or you have to keep in mind 4 things while examining the passage. Its subject, what is said about the subject, what does the author mean, what is he saying about it. So you have to keep in mind all these 4 important points. Give a short title. You are required to supply a title for your Precis. This is a good stage at which to do this. Think of some word, phrase, a short sentence that will sum up briefly the main subject of the passage. So this is not compulsory that you are bound to choose a sentence for the title. It can be even a word, it can be even a phrase, it can be even a short sentence. But the requirement to choose the title is this, that the word will be comprehensible or significant enough to summarize all the important information regarding the main subject of the passage. Sometimes this is supplied by what we may call a key sentence. Sometimes this is like a key sentence of all the important information. This key sentence may be found at the beginning or at the end of the passage. So this key sentence is not compulsory that you will find it out in the beginning only. This is not compulsory. This can be also in the end of the passage. But you will not always find such convenient key sentences in the passage you have to summarize. The next problem is that this is not compulsory that you will always be lucky to find such convenient key sentences in the paragraphs. And you think that you will summarize all the information regarding the subject or the main subject of the passage. Sometimes it happens that in their absence, you must get a clear idea of the subject from the passage as a whole. Here you have to use your skills, you have to use your potentials, you have to use your capabilities in order to identify the clear idea of the subject which is discussed in the passage as a whole. And then you have to summarize it up in a suitable heading. The effort to find a suitable title at this stage will help you to define in your mind what exactly the subject or main theme of the passage is. So this is such type of intensive brain work. This is not such an easy work when you will not find any key sentence in the paragraphs. It means that your effort will be increased. You have to put efforts in order to find a suitable title at this stage, which will not only help you to define in your mind what exactly the subject or main theme of the passage is, or in the second, it will be helpful for the readers as well, even by reading the title, that which type of important information is going to discuss in the paragraph. Select important points. Further reading is now necessary to ensure that you understand the details of the passage as well as its main purpose. You should now be in a position to decide what parts of the passage are essential and what are comparatively unimportant and so can be omitted without any loss. Here you have to do a lot of work. You have to use your sharp skills that you have to select important points. Not only those points which you think that these are important, but you have to use all those points, important points, which is the requirement of the paragraph. So sometimes in a position to decide the important points, you make yourself ambiguous, you make yourself confused while reading the paragraph with the use of the repeated examples. You have to avoid repeated examples. You have to avoid comparatively unimportant information. You just have to omit insignificant or insignificant information. It requires some practice to be able to say. The best guide, of course, is the subject or main theme of the passage. If you have a clear and correct idea of that, you will soon see what is important and what is unimportant. Not the length and write rough draft. If the number of words is given you, this is easy. But if you are told to reduce the passage to, say, a third of its length, count the number of the words in a passage and divide by 3. This is simple. At this stage, write down the title and the details which you consider essential and important. This is better planned than underlining sentences and phrases in the original. You have to note down all the essential and important points on your notebook, on something else or somewhere else on which you want to write. This could be better rather than you have to underline the sentences and phrases in the original one. It's not likely that your first attempt will be a complete success. You may have to write out several drafts before you find how to express the gist of the passage fully within the limits set. So you have to make it again and again for some times. Remodeling. The following points must be kept in mind while you will remodel the first draft. The précis should be all in your own words. You are not supposed to copy paste here. The précis must be connected whole. I mean the ideas must be interrelated to each other. The précis must be complete and convey its message fully and clearly. The précis must be in simple, direct, grammatical and idiomatic English. We may omit repetitions, illustrations and examples. Revision. When you have made your final draft, carefully revise it before you write out the fair copy, because there can be many mistakes at this stage also. So revision is important, revision is compulsory. Be sure its length is within the limits prescribed. Like you have to write the 1/3 of the whole passage. You are bound to write the 1/3. Compare it with original to see that you have included all the important points or not. Either there is an important point discussed in the paragraph is going to miss or not. So the points must not be missed. All the important information must be included. Correct all the mistakes in spelling, punctuation, grammar and idiom. Let the language be simple and direct. You have to use the simple language as much as you think that your reader must be able to understand your points. Final draft. Write out neatly the fair copy under the title you have selected. Now this is the final stage where you have to write out the neat and fair copy under the title which you think that is the most suitable according to the paragraph or according to the information. It can be a key sentence, but if it's not a key sentence, it means that you have to choose the title according to the relevant information as a whole. That will represent your final draft, your paragraph. Example. In every country, people imagine that they are the best and the cleverest and the others are not so good as they are. The Englishman thinks that he and his country are the best. The Frenchman is very proud of France and everything French. The Germans and Italians think no less of their countries, and many Indians imagine that India is in many ways the greatest country in the world. This is wrong. Everybody wants to think well of himself and his country, but really there is no person who has not got some good and some bad qualities. In the same way, there is no country which is not partly good and partly bad. We must take the good wherever we find it and try to remove the bad wherever it may be. Across the world, you can say. So here religion and classes are not important. We are, of course, most concerned with our own country, India. Every individual belonging to any country, preferably, of course, they will have concern with their own country. Like being a Pakistani, we have concern with our state, Pakistan. Unfortunately, it is in a bad way today. Many of our people are poor and unhappy. They have no joy in their lives. We have to find out how we can make them happier. We have to see what is good in our ways and customs and try to keep it, and whatever is bad we have to throw away. If we'll find anything good in other countries, we should certainly take it. So let's see. How we will summarize this paragraph? By using the procedure or the method of the Precis or the qualities of the Precis. Okay, the title. So there is not a keyword which is given. So the writer has decided the title or has assigned the title of the Precis or to the Precis according to the comprehension or the understanding of the whole. How to make a country better. People of every country think that they are good and others are not. This is wrong. Here you can see that he has summarized all the examples by one sentence. In the paragraph, he has given different examples of the different states or the country. So here he has summarized into only one sentence by saying people of every country think that they are good and others are not. So this is wrong because every country and the people of every country has good and bad qualities. We must concerned with our country, India. Many people are poor and unhappy, and we have to make them happy by take the good and remove the bad. Here, if we will talk about Pakistan, so we will say that we must concern with our own country, Pakistan. So many people are poor and unhappy in Pakistan, and we may have to make them happy by take the good and remove the bad. We should adopt good things of our or other countries. It means that we are not supposed to criticize them. We have to make things clear. We have to make ourselves cooperative and we have to make ourselves welcoming for all the countries in sense of good things, in sense of positivity, in sense of cooperation. Thank you so much.